Not a happy weekend for the Mets and their fans as they start off the first MLB weekend of the season by being swept by the Brewers. And on Sunday, New York fell to Milwaukee 4-1. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk some Mets baseball, and we're going to do it with New York Post podcast executive producer Jake Brown, who joins me now. Jake, how are you enjoying the start of the season, or considering the Mets are 0-3, you're not enjoying it at all?
I wasn't sure what title you give me. I thought you'd say maybe local fan, historian. I'm not sure what it would become. But, I'm still tapped in here on the Mets, and it's going to be a long season. It's 162. It's 3 games. I'm not going to jump off a cliff 3 games in, but certainly a disappointing start to this season, and there's going to be a lot of headaches watching this team.
There is, and I know some fans are already jumping out the window, but I agree. 3 games, got to be measured. Now, before we get to the Mets' start to this season, news came down on Sunday that Amazing's reliever Yohan Ramirez has been suspended for 3 games for intentionally throwing at Brewers slugger Rhys Hoskins. Manager Carlos Mendoza also suspended for a game which he served on Sunday. Ramirez is appealing his suspension. So, Jake, considering what happened this weekend with the Mets and Hoskins, was this suspension that came down a fair one for Major League Baseball?
Listen, the principle of it is ridiculous. He should not have been suspended 3 games. It made no sense. One, he threw it way behind him, and I get it. The baseball is dangerous. Guys get hit. It's a dangerous thing. We're not, condoning beaning guys. But also what Rhys Hoskins did to Jeff McNeil is dangerous. And I know it was a legal slide, but that spike goes into his ankle the wrong way, and Jeff McNeil could be out for the season. And this is a Mets team that last year dealt with getting hit by everyone and anyone and never really retaliated. They never showed fight. They never threw a punch. And I thought the Mets should have did it way earlier in the game. They completely missed out by waiting for Rhys Hoskins to have a 2-run single, a 2-run homer, a 3rd hit, and then the 4th at bat. Okay, then we'll throw behind him with the last guy in the roster. I don't care if Yohan Ramirez gets suspended. He means nothing, really. And the Mets used him for 3 innings Sunday. Take the suspension now. There's no use appealing it. Take the 3 games. You wouldn't pitch till Wednesday anyway with these 3 innings you just pitched. But I thought it was a disgrace by Major League Baseball to kind of lay the hammer down when he threw behind him. And, it should have been a warning anyway. He threw behind him. You're telling me if he hit him, it's going to be the same result? That doesn't make sense versus throwing behind him. So I thought the ruling was dumb. But listen, it's Yohan Ramirez. Who cares?
Gotcha. Not too worried about it, but not liking the ruling there. Seems a little bit inconsistent from Major League Baseball on that one. Okay, Jake, the Mets, they're now 0-3, as we talked about. Their first 0-3 start since 2014. What are your concerns about this Mets team through 3 games, and are you more concerned about the starting pitching or the hitting thus far?
The hitting's getting J.D. Martinez back, so I'm not going to judge the lineup until he's here. I will say this. If they did not sign J.D. Martinez a week ago, we're talking about maybe a 70-win team. It's early. It's cold. We can't judge Lindor's 1 for 12. He's got to step it up. We can't judge Brandon Nimmo's 1 for 13. He'll get in a groove at some point. But, the starting pitching is the biggest concern for this Mets team right now. This was their biggest concern coming into the season. No one's getting through into the 6th inning, through the 5th inning. Opening day, Jose Quintana goes 4 2/3. Second game of the year, Severino goes 5 innings and implodes, 12 hits, 6 runs. He's coming off one of the worst seasons in the history of baseball in a prove-it year, concerning. And then Sunday, McGill only gets through 5. This team needs starters to get into the 6th inning. The Mets have 5 days off the first 2 months of the season. It's 3 in April, 2 in May. And one of those in April is going to end up being rain out, makeup, probably Thursday with the weather ahead. They're going to have hardly any days off. This bullpen is going to be absolutely taxed by Memorial Day if this rotation can't get into the 6th and 7th inning. And I know early on they're going to be careful, not get starters too deep, but you're going to have some days starters go 7 innings. And there's no Kodai Senga here, at least, probably for the first month, to save you and give you those 7 innings. And I don't know which starters on this Mets team are going to do that. So the starting pitching is certainly the biggest concern for this team. It was coming in, and they don't have reinforcements to help. There's no Jordan Montgomery available to sign. He's off the board. There's not that free agent pitcher out there to sign that's on the board for them to get. And you have Vasil, you have Christian Scott. They could be down the pipeline, but this Mets farm system is not, plentiful with an abundance of starting pitching. They have the prospects hitting. We know about that, but they don't have the pitching. So I'll judge the lineup when JD Martinez is here. It did remind me Tyrone Taylor had a cleanup of the Mayberry Campbell cleanup days, which I still have lost sleep and had nightmares over. That was scary. But wait till JD's here for me to judge the lineup.
All right, so patience on the lineups, concerns about the pitching. And, Jake, we do not want you back to losing sleep. We don't want that at all. But beauty of baseball is there always is another game. It's a long season, still 159 more games to go. The Mets, they're back at it on Monday when they open up a 3-game set with Detroit, the Tigers at Citi Field. What are you keeping your eye on with the Metropolitans in this upcoming series with the Tigers?
Well, you could call me, Jake Roker, Maurice Dubois. I'm keeping an eye on the weather, first of all, because I think one or maybe two of these games could get rained out. And I talked about those off days. Thursday could end up becoming one of those makeouts. So I don't think all three of these games will be played as scheduled. So that's one thing to watch. I'm also watching for the debut of Minaya and the debut of Hauser. I talked about the rotation being the biggest issue. These guys got to give you 6 innings. You're going to be without Ramirez here. You're already down a reliever, essentially, whether it's suspension or whether it's he's taxed from pitching 3 innings. So you're down a man. Got to get through the 6. You have to, I know the new age of baseball, guys don't go in a deep into games, but you got to be able to throw 6 innings. It's unacceptable to not get through the 5th and get through a 6th inning in the big league. So Minaya and Hauser are 2 new guys. Let's see how they do in their debuts here. And Quintana, his second start, let's see how he does. Let's see if he can give you the quality start that he's used to giving. He's usually a 6-7 inning guy, 2 runs, 3 runs. They got to be able to give that to you. And Minaya and Hauser are big question marks. A lot of Mets fans don't know a ton about them. And, they've put up competitive numbers. They've been good in the big leagues, but we got to see more out of them. And I want to see this lineup come alive. I want to see Lindor showed up. Enough of him, showing up weeks into the season. April, he's got to be there. And, this weather's going to be cold. It's going to be tough for these pitchers to put out really good performances. Tough to get a grip on that baseball. Tough for the bats to get going when it's 40 degrees at Citi Field. I wish there were less home games in April here, but that's how the cookie crumbles. But this rotation has to get deeper into games, and guys got to start playing together offensively, moving guys over, laying down a bunt, drawing some walks, more productive offensive baseball, because I don't think JD Martinez is going to come here and save them, so the other guys got to step up as well.
Yeah, we'll see how the Mets do this week as they wrap up their homestand with this series against Detroit. You mentioned there, Jake, will some of these games get in with the weather forecast that we're seeing coming up for the next couple of days? We'll see if the Mets are able to turn around. Right now, they're 0-3 to start this 2024 season. That is Jake Brown, executive producer of New York Post Sports Podcast. Jake, always good talking some Mets with you. We will talk down the road.
Happy Easter. Thanks for having me.
Happy Easter to you, too. Thank you, sir.